John Neely Kennedy, the senator from Louisiana, was not a man easily forgotten. With his warm Southern drawl, razor-sharp wit, and a knack for turning Senate hearings into must-watch spectacles, he was a seasoned politician who could make a crowd roar with laughter or fall silent in thought. His easy smile and piercing eyes hid a secret that no one in Louisiana, or even Washington, could guess. John Kennedy was quietly executing a bold plan, one that could reshape how the world viewed human potential. Under the alias Nathan Brooks, he slipped away to Belhaven, a crumbling old orphanage on the edge of Louisiana's swamps, where 16 children were struggling to find meaning in their lives. He wasn't there for charity or votes. Kennedy had a grand vision: to build a center called the Global Mind Hub, where these extraordinary kids would use their unique abilities to tackle global crises from climate change to social unrest. But to make it happen, he'd have to win over the skeptical children, face pushback from the authorities, and confront a secret buried deep in Belhaven's basement, where a living system called Beacon was waiting to be awakened. Amara, a 12-year-old girl with the ability to sense emotions, was the first to realize that Nathan Brooks was more than a stranger. He was the key to a future no one dared dream of. Amara Jones sat curled up on the rusty iron bed in the cramped attic room of Belhaven, her deep brown eyes fixed on the cracked window. Through the smudged glass, she saw the winding dirt road cutting through stunted pines, a rusted mailbox leaning precariously, and, in the distance, the misty swamp where white egrets occasionally glided by. Amara had been here since she was 5, left behind by parents who promised vaguely to return. That promise was now a faint memory, dissolving like smoke. She no longer cried for them. Instead, she found solace in the 15 other kids at Belhaven, who had become her family not by blood, but through shared days of laughter, tears, and survival. There was Jamal, her 10-year-old best friend who could make her laugh no matter how bad the day. Elise and Ella, the 8-year-old twins who never let go of each other's hands. Sophie, the 4-year-old who followed her like a shadow. And Marcus, the 13-year-old who acted tough but hid a fragile heart. But Amara had a secret she kept even from Jamal. She could feel other people's emotions, not just guess them, but feel them, like a current running through her skin. When Miss Clara, the orphanage's caretaker, worried about money, Amara's chest tightened. When Sophie was happy, her heart raced for no reason. She didn't understand why she was like this, only that it made her different. And different was dangerous in a place like Belhaven, where fitting in was the only way to survive. This morning, the dull rhythm of Belhaven was disrupted. Amara was helping Sophie tame her tangled curls when a strange sound broke through the smooth hum of an engine. Not the rattling clunk of the delivery truck. She ran to the window, her heart pounding. A silver sedan, polished to a shine, rolled slowly down the dirt road, red dust swirling around it like a whisper. Cars at Belhaven meant trouble. Social workers came in battered white vans, carrying papers that could tear them apart. Cops showed up in noisy patrol cars, lights flashing, to scare off troublemaking kids. But this car was different, too clean, too perfect, like it belonged to another world. It stopped in front of the porch, and Amara held her breath as the door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, lean, in his 60s, wearing a black baseball cap that shaded half his face. His jeans and gray jacket looked ordinary, but his movements weren't. He walked with the confidence of someone who owned the world. Yet his eyes, as they scanned the decaying building, flickered with an emotion she couldn't name, like he was chasing a lost memory. Amara felt it, a powerful surge. Determination mixed with deep sadness, so strong she gripped the windowsill to keep from falling. "Amara, come help with breakfast." Miss Clara's voice called from the kitchen, sharp but weary. Amara didn't budge. She couldn't tear her eyes from the man, who stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, studying the building like it was a puzzle to solve. For a moment, she thought he looked right at her, his gaze cutting through the dirty glass. And another wave of emotion hit a strange recognition, as if he saw something in her no one else did. She ducked behind the thin curtain, her heart racing. Who was he? And why did she feel like he wasn't a stranger? The doorbell rang, its lonely chime echoing through the old house. Amara crept downstairs, her steps silent as a ghost. 7 years at Belhaven had taught her how to be invisible, how to eavesdrop on things adults didn't want her to hear. "Good morning," the man said as Miss Clara opened the door, his voice warm with a Louisiana lilt so perfect it felt rehearsed. "I'm Nathan Brooks. I'm here to talk about buying this building." Amara froze, hiding behind the staircase. "Buy Belhaven?" The words hit like a knife. This was their home, where they laughed, cried, and survived the hard days together. If he bought it, the 16 kids would be split up. Jamal, Elise, Ella, Sophie, all torn apart. She clutched the banister, her nails digging into the wood. "Miss cried," Clara's voice, heavy with years of struggle, answered, "I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks, but this place isn't for sale. This is Belhaven Orphanage. 16 kids live here, and they've got nowhere else to go." The man didn't flinch. "I understand, Miss Clara, but I also know you're struggling. The city wants to shut this place down. The heat has been broken since last winter. The roof leaks everywhere, and you're 6 months behind on taxes. I can fix all that for you and the kids." Silence fell, heavy as the air before a storm. Amara felt Miss Clara's fear, a pressure crushing her chest. "How do you know all that?" Miss Clara asked, her voice trembling. "I have ways of learning about places that matter," the man replied. And that sadness surged again, touching Amara like a wave. "May I come in to talk? I think you'll want to hear my offer." Footsteps moved to Miss Clara's small office, the door closing with a click. Amara waited, counting to 10, then slipped downstairs, avoiding the creaky third step. In the kitchen, Jamal was spreading peanut butter on bread for the younger kids' lunches, his hands quick and sure. At 10, Jamal was small but sharp, always carrying a smile and a sketchbook he treasured above all else. Lately, something strange had been happening around him. Lights flickered when he was angry. Bulbs glowed brighter when he was happy. He didn't talk about it, but Amara saw the worry in his eyes. "Who's that?" Jamal whispered, not looking up. "Name's Nathan Brooks," Amara said softly. "Wants to buy Belhaven." Jamal froze, the butter-smeared knife hovering. "Buy it? Where do we go then?" Before she could answer, the other kids shuffled in. Elise and Ella, the twins, held hands tightly, their matching curly hair bouncing. Sophie toddled behind, clutching a dandelion that looked fresher than it should, given the backyard's dry grass. Marcus, the oldest, leaned against the doorframe, his eyes dark. "Heard him talking," Marcus muttered. "He's gonna wreck our home." Elise's eyes welled up. "No way," she whispered. "We won't let him," Ella added, squeezing her sister's hand. But Amara knew it wasn't that simple. She'd seen the stack of bills on Miss Clara's desk, heard her crying at night. Belhaven was falling apart, and they were the last ones holding on. The meeting in the office lasted nearly 2 hours. When Nathan Brooks emerged, he paused in the hallway, his eyes sweeping over the kids, pretending to play cards in the living room. He looked at Amara, and for a moment, she felt Ita spark, like he knew her secret, the part she always hid. She shivered, pulling her scarf tighter, the only thing her mother had left her. "Thank you, Miss Clara," he said, his voice calm. "My people will send the paperwork tomorrow." Then he left, the silver sedan gliding away, leaving dust and fear in its wake. Miss Clara stood at the door, watching, her hands trembling. When she turned back, Her eyes were red. "Kids," she said, her voice breaking, "we need to talk." They gathered in the living room, crammed onto the worn couch and frayed rug. Miss Clara, with her silver hair and kind eyes, had always been their rock, but now she looked like she might shatter. "That man made an offer," she began, her hands clasped tight. "He wants to buy Belhaven, and he's promised enough money to find new homes for each of you. Together, right?" Jamal asked, his voice small. Miss Clara's silence was the answer. "No," Amara shot to her feet, her voice firm. "We're family. Families don't split up." Miss Clara's eyes glistened. "Sometimes, Amara, they have to. Sometimes it's the only way to keep everyone safe." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay on her bed, the springs digging into her back, listening to the house groan like it was morning. Jamal breathed steadily across the room, but she knew he was awake. 3 years ago, they'd sworn to stick together, no matter what. Now, that promise felt as fragile as broken glass. She got up, her bare feet cold, and went to the window. The street was dark, the streetlight flickering. But then, the silver sedan appeared, silent as a ghost. Nathan Brooks stepped out, alone, standing on the sidewalk, staring up at Belhaven. His eyes met hers, and a rush of emotion hit, not fear, but a connection, like he'd known her forever. He raised a hand, a small gesture, then got in the car and vanished. Amara pressed her hand to the glass, her mind reeling. Why did he keep coming back? What did he want with their home? And why did he feel so familiar? The next morning the phone rang. Miss Clara answered, her face paling. The paperwork was ready. They had 1 week to pack, to say goodbye to Belhaven, to each other. Amara sat on her bed, clutching her scarf, ignoring the box the social workers brought. Jamal, stuffing his sketchbook into a bag, looked at her. "You gotta pack, Amara. I'm not going," she said, her voice steady but trembling. "This is our home." Jamal sighed, his eyes saying he didn't believe it was that simple. By midweek, social workers swarmed in, measuring the kids like furniture, assigning them to different places. Jamal was headed to Baton Rouge, 3 hours away. Elise and Ella were being split upone to Texas, one to Alabama. Sophie, too young to understand, kept planting dandelions in the yard, each one blooming impossibly fast, like it knew time was running out. Amara watched from the window. The kids' emotions, Marcus's anger, the twins' fear, Sophie's innocent hope mixing with her own, choking her. She had to do something. That night, when the house was dark, Amara moved. She grabbed the flashlight under her pillow and crept downstairs, her bare feet silent. The basement door, always locked, was her target. Miss Clara said it was just storage, unsafe. But Amara had seen Nathan Brooks near it too many times, his hand lingering on the knob like it held answers. Tonight, the door was ajar, the darkness beckoning. She pushed it open, the hinges creaking, and shone her flashlight down the wooden stairs. The basement was musty, cluttered with boxes and broken furniture, but something felt off. At the far end, behind a pile of shattered chairs, was a new door metal, sleek, with a small glass panel glowing faintly blue. Amara's heart raced as she approached, her flashlight shaking. The door wasn't locked, just a handle. And when she pulled, a warm rush of air hit her, carrying a hum like a heartbeat. Beyond was a hallway, eerily clean, with white walls and lights that flicked on as she stepped inside. It sloped downward, deeper than any basement should go, the hum growing louder. She walked, her sneakers silent on the floor, until the hallway opened into a small room lined with filing cabinets and walls covered in photos. Hundreds of faces stared at her children, all wearing old Belhaven uniforms. Some photos were recent, others faded, their clothes shifting through time bell bottoms. tie-dye, flip phones. But every kid looked alive, confident, like they carried a secret. Amara's flashlight swept across them, her breath catching. In one corner, a set of photos stopped her cold. They showed a boy, about 10, with sharp eyes and messy hair, holding homemade Gadgetsa radio from wires, a bridge model from straws. A label read, Jonah Baxter, Bell Haven Orphanage, 1,965, 1,967. The boy looked like someone Nathan Brooks might have known from Miss Clara's stories of the old days. Amara's hands shook as she opened a file labeled Current Residence. Inside were details about her and the others, but not normal records. They were precise, clinical. Jamal Carter, potential light manipulation. Light responds to emotional state. Elise and Ella Nguyen, dream communication, mental linkage. Sophie Lee, biological influence on plants. Amara Jones, emotional resonance, sensing and modulating mental states. Her own file made her dizzy. High emotional amplification potential. Recommend enhanced observation. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hallway. Amara gasped, shoving the file back, her heart pounding. Her flashlight swung wildly as she turned. And Nathan Brooks appeared in the doorway, his eyes not angry but curious. "You're more curious than I expected, Amara," he said, his voice low. "But you're exactly where you need to be." Amara stepped back, his emotions sincerity, resolve flooding her. "Who are you, really?" she asked, her voice shaky but firm. He smiled, removing his cap. "I'm John Neely Kennedy," he said. "And you, Amara, are the one I've been looking for." Amara stood motionless in the basement room, the blue glow from the beacon washing over her face, making her dark brown eyes shimmer with questions yet unanswered. The steady hum of the strange machine blended with the heavy breathing of the children behind her: Jamal, Elise, Ella, Sophie, and Marcus, creating an atmosphere both mysterious and tense. Last night, when John Neely Kennedy, his true identity finally revealed, looked at her and said, "You're the one we've been looking for." A strange feeling surged through Amara's chest. It wasn't fear, but a deep connection, as if he understood her better than she understood herself. Now, standing before the Bicona living structure with a surface that shimmered like flowing veins of light, she couldn't stop the questions racing through her mind. What did a powerful senator like Kennedy really want with a bunch of orphans like them? Beside Kennedy stood Miss Clara, her red eyes and anxious face revealing silent guilt. Amara could feel it, the mix of pain, regret, and fragile hope, and it pushed her to seek the truth. She turned to the group, voice trembling but firm. "We can't stop here. We need to find out what he really wants with us." Jamal stepped forward, his hands glowing, the light from his palms merging with the beacon's radiance to create a soft halo that lit up their astonished faces. "It's reacting to me," he said, his voice deep with a sense of discovery. Elise and Ella clutched each other's hands, their eyes sparkling like the reflections of the beacon's glow. "We've seen it in our dreams," Ella whispered, her voice soft but full of trust, like a tree made of light, growing underground, calling out to us. Sophie, holding a glowing dandelion, stepped closer to the beacon with a childlike smile. Instantly, vines sprouted from the cracks in the floor, wrapping around the machine like a natural welcome, their green leaves vibrant against the damp basement air. Marcus, still frowning in suspicion, didn't stop them, but his voice rang out low and cautious. "If he really is Kennedy, why all the secrecy? I don't trust any politician who suddenly cares about orphans out of the goodness of his heart." Amara nodded, the mix of skepticism and curiosity in Marcus's voice washing over her like a current. "I don't trust him completely either," she said, But the files down here prove he knows about our abilities. We have to ask him directly. No more lies. Kennedy stepped forward, eyes glowing as he watched the children interact with the beacon. "There's nothing to fear," he said, his deep Louisiana drawl giving the words a storyteller's warmth. "I didn't come to hurt anyone." The beacon is a living system, designed to connect with special minds like yours. I've been watching Bellhaven for a long time to control, but to protect. You kids are humanity's hope. You have the power to solve what the world is struggling with. Climate change, war, poverty, and the loneliness that divides us. Miss Clara stepped in, her voice shaking as if barely holding back tears. "John, you can't put this kind of burden on them. They're just children, not tools." Kennedy turned to her, his expression softening with a profound sadness. "Clara, I know it's hard to accept, but I've seen the future, where they make the difference. I won't force anything, but I need their consent. If they choose to help, I'll be here to guide them." Amara could feel the sincerity in his voice, but there was also a hidden fear, like he was carrying a burden no one else could see. "What do you want us to do?" she asked, stepping closer to the beacon, her heart pounding. As her hand touched its shimmering surface, a surge of energy rushed through her body, and vivid images exploded in her mind-flooded cities with water crashing into homes. Wildfires consuming forests, black smoke choking the skies, and the cries of millions echoing in the wind. A voice spoke in her head, not Kennedy's, but the beacon's itself, warm and clear. "You can heal the world, if you choose." Amara pulled back, breathless, but her eyes stayed locked on Kennedy. "You built this so we could save the world?" Kennedy nodded, his voice low but brimming with conviction. "Yes. The beacon isn't just a machine. It's a living artificial intelligence. It needs your minds to function. You are the bridge between people and the solutions we need. I've spent decades since my earliest days as a senator searching for souls like yours. But time is short, and the government is beginning to suspect." Before he could continue, a deafening alarm blared, and red lights flashed through the room like a storm of warnings. Kennedy's team rushed to the control panels, shouting over the chaos, "Government agents inbound!" A man in a white lab coat called out, staring at a screen. 3 vehicles, armed. They know about the basement, and they're closing in." Kennedy's jaw tightened, his eyes sharp and cold as steel. "Prepare defenses. I won't let them take the kids." Amara felt his unwavering resolve, but she also caught the flicker of fear beneath it. Fear that his entire plan might be destroyed by the very system he once served. Miss Clara clutched Amara's hand, her voice trembling with panic. "You have to run. It's too dangerous. We can't let you get caught in this." But Amara shook her head, her eyes steady. "No, we're not running. If Kennedy's telling the truth, we have to protect our home." Sophie grabbed her hand, the glowing dandelion flaring like a tiny flame, and Amara felt a new strength rising inside her as if the entire group was connecting through the beacon, forming an invisible circle of energy. Heavy boots thundered above them, followed by a voice cold as ice echoing through a loudspeaker. "This is Dr. Helen Carter from the Department of Child Safety. We have reports of illegal experimentation on minors. All children must exit immediately for protection." Kennedy grabbed the mic, his voice firm and resonant. "Dr. Carter, this is Senator John Neely Kennedy. These children are not being experimented on. They are our future. Let me explain before you act." The voice replied, laced with contempt. "Senator Kennedy, you are breaking the law. We will enter by force, if necessary. Surrender now." Amara could feel the tension building from both sides, Kennedy's protective stance and Carter's hard, skeptical resolve. Jamal raised his hand, his light surging into the beacon, which flared like a lighthouse in a storm. "We're not leaving," he said, his voice shaky but firm. Elise and Ella nodded. their eyes glowing as if sharing a dream-born plan. And their thoughts began to project onto the walls blurred images from their minds taking shape. Kennedy ordered his team to activate the defense barriera, shimmering green field that surrounded the room, shaking the floor as the beacon's light grew more intense. "Kids!" he said, looking straight at Amara with a mix of pride and urgency. "I need your help to fully activate the beacon. If we can show them your power, they'll have to think twice." Amara nodded, feeling the emotions of the group flowing through her. Marcus's fierce protection as he stood in front of Sophie, Sophie's unwavering faith, Jamal's curious hope, and the magical harmony of the twins. She touched the beacon again, and an even stronger surge of energy flooded her like a river of light. The machine's glow spread across the room, casting moving images on the walls, a green world with endless meadows, humans living in peace, children laughing under clear skies. "Let them see," she said, her voice full of calm resolve, as if leading them into a new kind of battle. When the agents burst through the basement doors, they froze. The beacon blazed. Jamal's light intertwined with Sophie's vines. Elise and Ella's visions came to life on the walls, and Amara's sense of peace radiated through the air, softening their aggression. Dr. Carter entered, her face pale, hands shaking as she raised her weapon. This can't be real," she whispered, eyes wide at the surreal scene. Kennedy stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Dr. Carter, this is the beacon. It needs these kids to save humanity. Don't destroy this. Protect it. Let me prove it to you." She stepped back, eyes shifting from suspicion to wonder, and slowly lowered her weapon. "I'll need to report this," she said, still shaken, then signaled her team to withdraw, leaving behind a silence thick with meaning. As everything settled, Kennedy knelt before the children, his eyes filled with gratitude and hope. "Thank you. I know this is all new, but I promise I'll stand by you. Together, we'll build the global mind hub. Belhaven won't just be your home, it'll be the birthplace of a new future." Amara looked at him, feeling the deep truth in his words, and for the first time, a brilliant flame of hope lit up in her heart. The beacon pulsed gently, as if agreeing, and she knew their journey had only just begun. No matter if the government came back, no matter if the world resisted, Belhaven was no longer just an orphanage. It was the first spark to light a new era, where Kennedy and the children would shape the destiny of humanity together. That morning, the air inside the Belhaven basement still carried the tension and the flicker of hope left behind after the standoff with the government agents. The beacon's blue glow had begun to dim, like a lighthouse that had fulfilled its duty, reflecting off the weary but exhilarated faces of the children Amara, Jamal, Elise, Ella, Sophie, and Marcus alongside John Neely Kennedy and Mrs. Clara. The blaring alarms had ceased, leaving a strange silence in their wake, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. Kennedy stood in the center of the room, his eyes radiating resolve, though weariness tugged at his features after the long hours of tension. He had just knelt before the children, vowing to stay by their side and help them build the global mind hub. And Amara could feel that this wasn't just a speech, it carried a force, a promise rooted deep in his heart. But she also knew, with Dr. Helen Carter and her agents now in the picture, the story was far from over. The outside world was waking up, and Belhavenance, a forgotten orphanage, was about to become the center of global attention. Amara sat down beside Sophie, whose small hand still clutched the now wilted dandelion, its dim glow barely lingering. "You tired, kiddo?" Amara asked, brushing back Sophie's hair. The little girl shook her head and gave a soft smile. "Nope. The beacon says we're strong." Amara smiled back, but unease stirred in her chest. The sound of government boots fading into the distance echoed in her mind, as did Dr. Carter's cold, clinical voice. Jamal stood near the beacon, his hand still faintly glowing as if the machine hadn't fully let go of him. "It's still calling me," he murmured, like an invitation. Elise and Ella, hands clasped tightly, exchanged glances and turned to Amara. "We saw another dream," Ella said. "There were more kids like us everywhere." Marcus, still guarding the stairwell, looked back with concern. "What if the government comes back? Can Kennedy really protect us?" Amara glanced at Kennedy, deep in conversation with one of his team members. In his posture, she sensed unwavering resolve, but also a flicker of doubt. "We have to believe in him," she said, even as uncertainty gnawed at her from within. Kennedy approached, his expression serious, but eyes gentle when he looked at the kids. "Last night was a test," he said quietly, "but it was only the beginning. The beacon has proven your power, and now we need to take it to the world. But first, we face the press and the government, and they won't accept it easily." He turned to Mrs. Clara, who stood silently with her arms crossed tightly over her chest, bracing herself. "Clara, I need your help keeping the kids grounded. We're holding a press conference in 2 days." Mrs. Clara nodded, though her voice trembled. "John, I'm scared they won't understand. They'll think we're mad." Kennedy placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "They called me mad when I pushed for tax reform. I did it anyway. This time, I'll prove Beacon is hope and not a threat." By the next morning, news of Belhaven spread like wildfire. Local television stations aired stories of a strange event at the orphanage, featuring blurry footage of the basement's glowing blue light, captured by agents before they withdrew. Public opinion fractured. Some hailed the children as forgotten prodigies, while others labeled them dangerous mutations. Kennedy knew time was short. He convened his core team, including Dr. Lena Duboisa, brilliant scientist who had once been an orphan at Belhaven herself, and was now one of his most trusted allies. With her long black hair and sharp, searching gaze, Lena explained, "Beacon doesn't just need them to function, it needs them to connect with other gifted children across the globe. We need to go public. If we don't, the government will confiscate it." Amara listened, moved by Lena's passion, but she could sense a deep, hidden fear that the world might never accept them. By afternoon, a media crew had gathered outside Belhaven, cameras and microphones aimed at the gate. Kennedy stepped out in a sharp suit, his familiar smile intact, though his voice held a gravitas it never had before. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "Belhaven isn't just an orphanage. It's the birthplace of the global Mind Huba project to unlock the potential of the human spirit, to guide us through our greatest challenges. These children are not test subjects. They are pioneers." At his signal, Amara, Jamal, Elise, Ella, Sophie, and Marcus emerged. Light shimmered from Jamal's hands, Sophie's vines sprouted rapidly around their feet, and visions from the twins' dreams appeared in the air behind them. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, others shouted, demanding government action. Meanwhile, across the globe, strange phenomena began surfacing. A girl in Hanoi made rainfall with a thought. A boy in Sao Paulo lit up street lamps when angered. Twins in Cairo dreamed of a radiant lighthouse. Online, number Belhaven Awakening went viral worldwide. Kennedy received an urgent call from Lena. "John, it's spreading. Hundreds of special children are awakening, and they're connecting through the beacon. We have to act fast." Amara could feel it too, an energy humming from the beacon, calling to her. This was bigger than Belhaven, but joy, as always, was fleeting. That night, military trucks surrounded the orphanage, floodlights slicing through the dark. Dr. Helen Carter stepped out, her expression icier than ever. "Senator Kennedy," she declared, "you've violated multiple federal statutes. We are seizing the beacon and taking the children for research." Kennedy stood firm, voice calm but resolute. "Dr. Carter, you're not looking at a threat. You're looking at humanity's future. Let me prove it to you." Carter shook her head and motioned her team forward. Amara, now beside the beacon, felt the children's panic rising. Kennedy's decision hung in the air. She touched the machine. A wave of energy surged through her, linking her to Jamal, Sophie, and the twins. The beacon exploded in light, projecting a massive display on the wall. Children from Tokyo to Nairobi awakening, their glow matching theirs. The soldiers froze, stunned. "Shut it down!" Carter yelled. "This is dangerous technology!" But another voice rose from the crowd. Dr. Lena Dubois stepped forward, holding official documents. "Noise Hope. I have authorization from the International Development Council. The Global Mind Hub is now classified as a national security initiative. You have no jurisdiction." Carter stepped back, suspicious but silent. Kennedy took Amara's hand, his voice echoing like a charge before battle. "Kids, now is the time. Show them the truth." Amara nodded. She and the others focused on the beacon. Light burst forth, racing across the sky. Forming a massive ring in the night, faces of children from all over the globe appeared, smiling and waving. The world erupted. Some rejoiced, some trembled, but no one could deny what was happening. By morning, Belhaven was the center of everything. Reporters camped outside. Scientists arrived to study. Parents showed up, searching for their awakened children. Kennedy stood before the crowd, Amara and the kids at his side. His voice rang out like prophecy. This is the dawn of a new era for humanity. The Global Mind Hub will be a place where these children learn to use their gifts to heal, to lead, to inspire. Amara looked around. Sophie's joy, Jamal's pride, the twins' united gaze. In that moment, she knew the road ahead would be long, uncertain, even dangerous. But they had found their true family under Kennedy's guidance, in a place where an old orphanage had become a beacon of hope for all humankind. Here is the full translation into natural American English. The sun had just risen in Belhaven, its first rays slipping through the cracks in the old roof, casting a faint golden glow on the tired but radiant faces of Amara and the children. The night before, a massive burst of light from beacon had lit up the sky, changing the world forever. And now, this small orphanage had become the center of millions of curious and hopeful eyes. Sirens wailed without pause, blending with the pounding footsteps of the gathering crowd and the chatter of reporters, creating a chaotic but vibrant symphony. The soft hum of beacon now lifted to the surface, resonated like a living heartbeat, as if the machine was breathing alongside the souls within. John Neely Kennedy stood in the backyard, his suit rumpled after a sleepless night, his eyes gleaming with pride and the heavy weight of responsibility. He had just led the children through a confrontation with Dr. Helen Carter and the outside world, and now he knew their journey was only beginning. Ahead lay trials, yes, but also the promise of something bigger than any of them could have imagined. Amara clutched the frayed scarf, her only keepsake from her mother, feeling a deep connection to Beacon, as if an invisible thread was linking her to thousands of other gifted children around the world. She looked at Kennedy, the man who had turned Belhaven from a forgotten shelter into humanity's lighthouse, and wondered, could they truly carry this dream? And was the world ready to accept them? By early morning, vehicles began arriving, non-stop, an unending stream. Ambulances carrying volunteer doctors wanting to check on the children's health after the chaos, media vans with their high-tech cameras and microphones pointed straight at the gates, and even private cars filled with parents, people who had lost children years ago, now finding a flicker of hope through the news about Belhaven. The noise startled the children, but Kennedy moved quickly, organizing his team, including Dr. Lena Dubois, to manage the situation. Lena, with her dark hair tied high and her piercing gaze, approached Amara. Her voice was warm but firm. "You all did the impossible. Now we have to make it real. Turn Beacon into a bridge for the entire world." Amara nodded, but anxiety still pressed heavy on her chest. "What if the world doesn't accept us, Lena? What if they see us as monsters?" she asked, voice trembling. Lena placed a steady hand on her shoulder and smiled. They will, because Kennedy and all of you will show them. Believe in your power, Amara. Jamal stood nearby, his hand still glowing faintly like a flickering candle, watching the crowd from the window with a mixture of curiosity and fear. There's a lot of people who hate us, he murmured. Marcus, standing protectively over Sophie, nodded. We need a plan. If not, we'll get caught or worse. Used for experiments. Sophie looked up, her big round eyes glistening. Mr. Kennedy will protect us, right, Amara? Amara smiled and brushed her hair. But deep down, she wasn't entirely sure. Kennedy had overheard the conversation. He stepped in, his familiar smile on his lips, but with a new layer of resolve in his eyes. I won't let that happen, he said, voice calm and firm. Global Mind Hub will be your sanctuary and I'll defend it with everything I've got, even if it means taking on Congress. By noon, a surprising event sent a ripple through Belhaven. A helicopter landed in a nearby field, its blades kicking up a storm of wind, flattening the wild grass. From it stepped a group of older strangers, their eyes filled with something both familiar and distant-like. They carried memories from another time. Dr. Lena approached, her voice trembling with emotion. John. They're former orphans who used to live here like me. They heard about Beacon and came to help. Kennedy looked at them, recognition dawning in his eyes. These were people who had once been part of his early community projects when he was still a young senator, now returning with their own gifts. A tall man with silver-white hair stepped forward. John, I lived here once. I learned to feel the Earth's vibrations to predict earthquakes. I came to help. He shared stories of hardship, but also magic, how he discovered his power within the decaying walls of the orphanage. An elderly woman, her hair gray and hands trembling, added, I can ease pain just with my thoughts. Belhaven is where I found myself. Amara could feel joy swelling from them, but also a deep surprise when Miss Clara stepped out, tears streaming down her face. I didn't think any of you were still alive, she whispered. Then Clara revealed a secret she had kept for years. Belhaven had never been just an orphanage. It was always a haven for gifted children. And she had silently tracked each generation, recording their abilities, waiting for the day they would rise. Kennedy took her hand. Clara, I know this is hard, but now I need you. Help us bring them together. We need a reunited family to build the future. From then on, the arrivals didn't stop. Former Belhaven orphans came from every direction. One from the Midwest who could manipulate water to irrigate crops. One from the South who created healing sounds from the air. Another from the North who could fix machines with a single thought. Together, with Kennedy and Lena, they began shaping a plan to turn Beacon into a global hub, using these gifts to address the world's greatest crises: climate change, conflict, and human isolation. But not everything went smoothly. That afternoon, a large protest gathered outside the gates, holding banners that screamed, "Stop experimenting on children!" and "Kennedy betrayed the people." The shouting made Sophie cry, and Amara wrapped her in her arms, feeling the fear spread like wildfire. Kennedy stepped forward to face the crowd. His suit was straightened, his familiar smile in place, but his eyes held unshakable determination. He spoke into the loudspeaker. I am not running experiments. These children are Hopenaut weapons. Give us a chance to prove it. A man in the crowd yelled, You're turning them into tools of war. Don't fall for his lies. Kennedy shook his head and signaled Amara and the others. They gathered around Beacon, and the machine lit up. Light spread across the sky, forming a giant screen showing children around the world, stopping forest fires in the Amazon, enriching soil in Africa, healing illnesses in Asia, calming storms on remote islands. The crowd fell silent. Some dropped their banners. A few eyes welled up. Then came the applause. A mother stepped forward crying, My son. He's like them. He makes flowers bloom in our backyard without anyone teaching him. Please, help us." Kennedy nodded. "We'll help everyone." That evening, an internal meeting was held in the underground room, now expanded into Beacon's control center. Kennedy stood in the middle, surrounded by the children, Clara, Lena, and the former orphans. "I want Global Mind Hub to be more than just a school," he said. "I want it to be home. A place where every gifted child in the world can belong. Beacon will connect us all, solve climate issues, conflicts, and social isolation. I dream of a world where every child can live as who they were meant to be." Lena added with passion, "We need to build satellite stations across the planet so the children can work from anywhere, putting out fires, enriching lands, healing, and more." Amara asked, worried, "But if we go out into the world, what happens to Bellhaven?" "This is our home," Kennedy smiled. "Bellhaven will be the heart, a home base. You'll always come back here. I'll protect it like I protect my own family." Sophie grabbed Amara's hand. Her dandelion glowed like a small flame. "You'll stay here with me, right?" Amara nodded, tears falling. "Always, Quito." The next morning, a formal opening ceremony was held, bigger than anything Bellhaven had ever seen. Beacon now stood on the surface, fully operational, encased in clear glass for all to witness. Inside, the children worked. Jamal lit the courtyard with glowing orbs. Sophie made flowers bloom across the garden. Elise and Ella projected peaceful dreams like holograms, and Marcus7, with his signature, scowl, helped organize the crowd with the help of former orphans. Kennedy addressed thousands, his voice ringing clear. "Today, we're not just launching a center, we're launching a new era. These children are the bridge between our past and our future, and together we will heal the world." Amara stood beside him, feeling the pride from the children and the gratitude in the eyes of reunited parents, those who once gave up hope now crying tears of joy. But not everyone agreed. A group of international scientists arrived, requesting to inspect Beacon for safety concerns, worried about its impact on the environment and society. Kennedy faced them with calm. "This doesn't belong to May, it belongs to humanity. Let the children prove themselves. Don't destroy hope." Debates raged for hours. The scientists questioned Beacon's energy source, the children's control, and the risk of unintended consequences. Kennedy stood firm, supported by Lena and international allies. He offered transparency, shared testimonies from former orphans about how their powers had already served their communities. Finally, the scientists agreed to supervise rather than shut it down. "We'll work together, not against one another. This is our chance to move forward as a species." As the sun set, Amara stood on the newly built roof of the Global Mind Hub. She watched as Beacon's light stretched out across the sky, linking thousands of minds around the world, forming a web of light around Earth. Kennedy stepped beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You did well, Amara. The road ahead will be hard, but I believe in you all." She smiled. "I believe in you too, Uncle John. We won't let this lighthouse fade." From afar, Sophie's laughter echoed, blending with the voices of newly arrived children carrying flowers, drawings, and tales of their own gifts. Music played from a former orphan's guitar, soft, but full of life. A melody for a new world. Amara knew. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter who still doubted them, they would face it together under the lighthouse that Kennedy had ignited, turning Bellhaven into the birthplace of a stronger, united humanity.